Shall I kick it off?
Please, James.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for having us here to speak. Today has been absolutely awesome right since the start. Really appreciate the opportunity. My name is Shane Kehoe. I am the co-founder of SVK Crypto. SVK Crypto is a venture capital firm based here in the fine city of London. We are a $50 million fund. We are known as an ecosystems fund, so we solely focus on projects being built out on the EOS.io protocol. We are backed by Block One, which is the creator of that protocol, and we are part of the EOS VC syndicate, alongside Mike Novogratz's Galaxy Digital and Eric Schmidt's Tomorrow VC. Really simple, we take equity stakes in companies that are going to build out on the EOS.io protocol. Thank you.
Ami?
Hi, my name is Ami. I'm the co-founder of Spice VC. Spice is the first fully tokenized fund. So we've started, we're one of the first to go into the security token space, and that's where we invest as well.
Okay.
So we made 12 investments, most of them in the security token space. And I'm now working on a new project also in the security token space.
Definitely going to ask you about that.
Okay.
George?
Hi, everyone. So I'm George McDonaugh. I started the company with my co-founder in early 2016. So we were one of the first token investment companies in the world. We were set up specifically to allow investors access to the crypto economy via a publicly listed share. So we are a listed company on one of the London markets called the NEX. We have one of the longest portfolios in the space in terms of active investment. And yeah, so we've had a great 3 years. It's been great fun. So yeah, that's us.
Awesome. And last but not least, James.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm James Roy Poulter from the Reserve. We were initially an advisory firm focused on helping traditional venture capitalists, investors, family offices understand what was actually happening in this space. That's matured as the market has changed from a marketing-driven way that you raise capital in this industry to a more traditional way, where some of the small investments that we've made off our own balance sheet over the last couple of years, we've stepped in at the kind of Series A, Series B stage, and we're now regulated with the FCA to manage and arrange deals and securities and actually help those companies access the very, very distributed set of capital that's interested in backing the best management teams in this space. I mean, there are not that many funds in London that are actually writing checks into this, so it's difficult as an entrepreneur, but very briefly, yeah, small funds helping later stage entrepreneurs raise capital.
Okay. So we're supposed to today talk about how do you get funded? I got a cool project, I got a great idea, I need some money. How do I get you to give it to me, right? But I want to back up for just a little bit. So it's Tech Week in London this week, and a stat came out that said that out of all the unicorns in Europe, most of them are here in the UK. I think we've got 17 or 19, tech unicorns in the UK versus 22 in Silicon Valley. So, Europe is really heating up. Where is that investment coming from? How are you assessing talent? What projects are interesting to you? How do we create more unicorns? So I want to kind of cover all of that in 20 minutes. But I guess let's start first with, I've got a cool idea, I've got some really cool tech, I need some funding. Let's take ICOs off the table, okay? So if we're just looking at straight VC investment, what's more important, the tech or the team?
I'll kick it off. You've come to me with the question, we've got a cool idea. Great. So what? So does everybody.
Right.
I'm not interested in cool ideas. I'm interested in businesses over the long term, and not necessarily how you're going to generate revenue, because without revenue, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
It's what can we bring.
Some people do.
They do.
Some people have
but there has to be some type of monetization in the future. Either that, or you're just generating further Series A, B, C, D, and constantly getting your rounds to increase in value, which will actually end bad, because at the end of the day, the business won't generate the cash flow in order to sustain the business.
So roadmap is important to you.
Of course roadmap's important.
The project's important.
Absolutely, and I'm not interested in a pipe dream. Like, I'm giving you my hard-earned cash. I'm giving you investors' money, right? I have to manage that capital correctly. That's how I get judged remunerated. That's my baby. I have to go out and find businesses that will be better than anybody else and that have an understanding, an execution, an idea, a tech, and that will work day and night to make that happen. And even then, it's still 1 in 10. Even then, the failure rate in VC is still really, really high. Business is tough. So don't come to me with a dream. Come to me with a very well thought out business with an examples of how you've executed in the past in a market which is timing, because when you look at different businesses, you can have the best business, but if the tech's not built out, or if the adoption's not there, it's not going to happen. It's all about market timing with the right team at the right place with the right tech. But more importantly, it's not just about allocating capital. It's not just about putting money into the deal. Everybody's got money. All money is not equal. It's about what else we bring. As venture capital guys, we have to bring an enormous amount of value to you. The exchange is both ways.
Yep.
So when you're picking a VC partner, don't just chase the books. Don't just chase that. Chase someone who can actually help you with introductions, business development, hiring, managing the business. So you have to be a success. It's a partnership and it works both ways.
Okay, I mean, what's Spice's view on tech versus the talent? So is it the team? Is it the idea? Is it the project? Is it...
Spice focused on investing in a very specific area. So maybe unlike funds which are more generic, we were an ecosystem fund. So we were looking at specific companies building the ecosystem for security tokens. So we basically mapped up the area of what security token is, you know, the blockchain level, the application level, the support around it, everything around security token, what needs to be built. And actually, when we started, most of it wasn't built, and still most of it isn't built.
So what do you do?
So
when you're looking to invest money, you have an idea very specifically where you're looking to invest
we have
money.
general direction.
Do you build it yourself?
Well, we did build a company ourselves to begin with, Securitize, which is a very successful company in the market. But the other 11 companies in the portfolio we didn't build, we actually invested in. I would say this in connection to what you were saying. For me, the team is definitely the number one element. Now, the team comes in with a direction that is the right direction and with the right concept. And you know, you can see execution at the beginning of a product. Usually, we invest early enough, and as an entrepreneur, I know that the actual product is going to change at least 3 or 4 more times until you actually reach it, and they will throw it away and start again. So, and they will pivot and they will move. But I want to see that the team is there with the passion. Sure. I want to see that they're chasing me. I want to see that they're grafting. I want to see them in the market everywhere I go. Every person I talk to, I want to hear, hey, this guy called me. And you can see those people, and you can see that those people that are real mover and shakers and hungry, you can see them operate in the market, while you can see on another company, you can see somebody comes to you and they pitch you, and it's boring, and then they go, and you never hear from them, and you never hear their name again in the market. So, you know, we won't invest in people like that.
So, George, same question, tech or team. These guys have kind of covered quite a lot of that. So what is that special thing when somebody comes in? Is it the person? Is it the idea?
I think it's definitely, you know, when we look at projects at Kehoe, it's definitely team first. I think that from the early days.
Let me just interrupt you. Break that down. So what about the team? Is it
So
their demonstrated
it's
subject matter
background.
expertise?
Yeah.
Is it they've had a grown-up job before? Is it that they're
Yes.
a genius?
That's all part.
A boy wonder?
No, well, that's all part of it. I think in the early days there was the sense that, you know, and it's true that the developers were the magicians that were building this stuff. I mean, you know, all the exhibits and the chatting and all these things that come with these events. It's the people who are coding. You know, the key people.
But do they know how to run sound businesses?
No, not necessarily. But that's where the team comes in, right? So you over time you begin to get a sense of the network and where the credibility is in this space. The people who have performed before and delivered before, and also have mutual respect amongst their cohort of other people. And so what we did right at the beginning was say, okay, let's get a group of developers that we trust their opinion, right? Because they know how to look at this space, they know how to see what's coming, and because the space is still so small, their opinion carried a lot of weight. And so when we came to look at teams, it's almost as much as mapping who these people are against the rest of the network that we've created. And that gives us a sense of where they've come from and what they could do again. And then the idea and where they fit into the ecosystem comes next. Because of course, over time, and crypto knows this better than anything, pivoting is a key aspect of what's happening. You've seen something, everything's running at 1,000 miles an hour. So by the time you've started something, you might be redundant. That particular project that you were trying to do has been done somewhere else. And so it's the team that allows you to overcome those areas and end up with something that adds great value to the community as a whole.
So James, you and I have talked quite a lot about your vision, your approach, how you work with clients, and it's a little bit differentiated. Similar to Ami building, a network. You've shared with me in the past about, it's absolutely person first. You've got to fall in love, and then you just run around together and you do this project, together. It's a partnership. So, tell me a little about that and what makes you fall in love? Like, what's the spark?
Sure.
Don't get romantic now, James. Don't get romantic on me. Don't do that.
So look, I think it takes time. So it's not quite love at first sight, if we were to use the analogy. I think if we look at the companies that we have invested in and we have our reputation behind at the moment, it's taken us probably on average a year from meeting them to get comfortable, but we're typically identifying them much earlier than most other people. And I think that, if we were to... Well, I think that if you look at the reserve, and again, before we were investing and before we were broking, we were advising, and we had a network of hundreds and hundreds of funds and individuals, high net worths around the world that were interested in this space. And we got a reputation with them for understanding how this space works, for being right, visibly right on stage and in writing. And basically that's meant we've had an incredible deal flow sharing network, and people seek us for opinions very, very early on. We also have a 30-person strong venture scout network that are all under contract with us, that are all incentivized to send the best deals that they come across to us. We see an awful lot of stuff. Like if you look at I reckon we probably see 300 to 400 things that float through our team before something that we actually back. And but when we actually do that, I think there's a reality looking, is it team or tech? Well, if we were being realistic here, what it is who else is investing in the round. Like there are very, very, very few leaders in this space. Most people do not understand the technology, do not understand how you create value in this space, and they're just followers. And so as entrepreneurs, you need to work out, okay, your team needs to be, okay, who is that lead? Who is that person that is going to take the leap of faith and come alongside you? And I think we want to do a better and better job of doing that, and it meaning more when we do step in alongside someone. But I think for us, when we do commit to someone, it is an absolute commitment. And we talk about alliance, execution, and perspective in decentralized futures. And alliance is a really key word for us. When we commit to someone, we will give absolutely everything, and we'll do everything that we can. I think also for us is we genuinely care about the space. We believe that the technology that we are building as a community is unbelievably important, and I think that comes with a lot of responsibility. And I think the final thing I will say when it comes to team is that you really have to think. I think investors in this space need to step up as well and play a more active role, particularly at the board level, as part of that team. I think if you were to look, we talk a lot about governance as a community, and we're trying to, how do we govern this world or govern a de-sovereign money? We can't even govern a company. It's generally appalling. And so I think that's part of making the team better around is more than just a couple of engineers. It's leadership from the investment community as well. Yeah.
So segue for me into my next kind of question around coaching, development, sitting on the board, steering the ship. What is the responsibility that you have? Obviously, you want a return on your investment. You're vested in ensuring the success of the firm. But I do see lots of great ideas and lots of really smart people that don't necessarily know how to execute. So an idea is one thing, execution is completely another.
It's all about execution. It is all about execution, 100%. You can have as many ideas as you want, but unless you can execute it, unless you can get traction, unless you can build it, you've got a pipe dream.
How do you guys help coach, mentor, introduce, lead, champion? Like, what's the role for you guys when you finally do identify those projects you want to invest in
I
to
think
ensure their success?
I think it's very similar to what James has said. It's all the above, all the time. Like, you're having a relationship. For us, we have a 10-year view. Our fund is an extended 10-year fund. So we are going to be embedded into those investments for up to 10 years, depending upon what happens if there's a buyout or if there's a liquidity event. But we are embedded with them. So you've got to get to the point of, very quickly, how do you deal with disputes? Like, how do you have a dispute resolution policy? Of course you're going to fall out. You almost want to fall out as soon as you possibly can, so you then understand where that person is and how they deal with it. Business is tough, and especially business in the venture capital
get the
world.
first fight out of the way?
Yeah, and that's okay. We're mature with our investments. We understand that things always don't go that way, but you really have to realize that the person has, and I think as two of the gentlemen said, determination, passion. It's so important, because sometimes stuff's going to go away, sometimes it's not. You're going to have setbacks. It's the way life is. It's how you deal with those setbacks that makes you have that determination, that grit, and that execution. I think for us, depending upon whether we're investing in seed to Series D, depending if we're investing in a $2 million round to a $30 million round. It depends, of course, who else is in those rounds with us. We've invested just recently with Kleiner Perkins. We've been with Galaxy Digital. We've been with Google Ventures. We've been with Linden Labs, Block Tower Capital. So each of those firms all bring something massively different to the table. I think we try to help out as best as we can. We're certainly not experts. We certainly don't have the deepest pockets or the longest track record, but we're really, really, really focused on building out the community. That's what we really pioneer. We own the home turf of London, and we go to each and every investment and bring them into our community and help out at each and every point. And by the way, seats on the board, absolutely. Advising on hiring, absolutely. Helping with corporate strategy is an absolute must, and each and everything along the way. As long as you have that relationship with the investor or investment, then we're all in. And you have to be, because it can never be a situation where you weren't committed and because of that, the investment failed. It can never be on you. We're all in 100%.
Guys, jump in.
I'm a little different. I think it's a matter of style. I think that as an investor...
Absolutely a matter of style.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm trying to get to here,
Yeah.
is that there's not one flavor of partner or money or VC. And it's important to, I'll stick with the love analogy, you know, you need to find your match.
Yeah.
Don't get
Right,
romantic
so-
on me now.
so-
Don't get romantic.
So my views and what I try to do is to help as much as I can, but not overdo it.
Oversteer.
Not
Okay.
oversteer. I mean, the entrepreneurs are there to do it. If they can't do it themselves, they're not going to do it by me doing a few pushes. But I want to help them as much as I can, mainly with connections, with ideas, with feedback, anything that they ask. But I'm very much aware, as a former entrepreneur, an entrepreneur today, that if you have a VC that invested in you, if they pick up the phone and they tell you to meet X, you would say yes, and you meet X, even if you don't want to meet them, even if it's a waste of your time. And I don't want to be a time waster as well. So you have to have this right balance of helping when you're needed, and butting out and letting people do their job, and not being overbearing. I think this is a very kind of important balance. And sometimes they need you more, especially when there's trouble and they need backup and they can't raise their next round and they need some support. And sometimes they just need you to back off and not waste their time.
Yeah, we're very similar. I think for us, if you've picked the team correctly, then you can get out of their way. And when they come to you and they need something, then of course we're there. I think from our perspective, the most important thing is participation afterwards. So when they've launched their protocol, when they need validators, when they need people to add a resource into what they've built, that's where we should back up our money. So if you look at something like Nexus Mutual, which has this pool of cover around smart contracts, they have a pool of Ether at the moment that we seed funded them, and then we've come back and added more funds into their pool. Not from an investment perspective, we don't get more tokens or anything like that. We're just seeding their pool of cover for smart contracts. And it's the same in the proof of stake world. If you have a protocol that needs validating, learn what validating is, participate in the process. of allowing these protocols to live and breathe and get off the ground once they've actually built them. So we concentrate on that especially.
Yeah, I think there's a minimum for every investor, or at least I think investors need to start working as a group to understand who's going to be the representative of that group in that vehicle, of just good governance and ensuring good governance. And that doesn't mean meddling or stepping in. It just means like ensuring that founders don't just use the money to buy a yacht or whatever, right? Or like I'll work on it for 6 months and then give up and launch the next project, which just happens like constantly in this space. The number of founders that are running 5 companies and investing in 20 and sitting on 6 boards is just stupid, right? Like no one gets anything done. But I think the example I would give you from more the angle that we take, and it's why we've got regulated, is because, I think we would probably agree that Andreessen Horowitz and A16Z is pretty good at choosing companies. But I think what they've found is that they choose early, and they provide so much value. They've got all 150 of their investment professionals in the US regulated to help them manage and arrange deals and to work alongside those entrepreneurs. And it's like we look at management teams, and actually we give the example of Dusk that we had been working with for about the last year and a half out in the Netherlands, and they were trying to raise capital kind of Q3 last year at the worst time of the market. And I think the short version is of this, that they're an absolutely incredible team building some of the most interesting technology which is out there, and you will hear about them much more in the coming months. But they couldn't really raise very much money, enough to survive, but there's not very much in Amsterdam, particularly after the funds had all been destroyed. And we stepped in and got them a much broader range of capital, and that was the largest sale of tokens there was in about a 6-month window period. But yeah, so again, so we commit, but I guess it's like we actually are sort of a charity, but like we're not quite a charity, and so we need to be remunerated for the work that we do. And I think the same reason A16Z thinks that the work that they do is valuable enough to be regulated and to be remunerated in that way is why we've taken those steps, because we think it's unbelievably impactful on the companies and the management teams that we work with.
So you mentioned Amsterdam, you mentioned London. Let's talk a little bit around where do you guys see the opportunities happening? So are they technologically based? Are they thematic based? Are they regional? Like where are you seeing the hot spots of innovation?
I think it's shifting massively. Obviously from Silicon Valley. Okay, so when we look back at the early days of hardware, the 1970s and 80s, and then moving into the internet as we know it and the technology companies. And I think the real last wave, although there is obviously amazing technology coming out of Silicon Valley, I believe that the next wave of multi-billion-dollar IPOs that will come through the capital markets will be coming out of this space, will be coming out of the blockchain space. I think when we look back and we see the Lyfts or the Ubers, or we see the Facebooks or the kind of sharing or social media economy, I think that's kind of coming to an end now. I think there's a real shift going on, and I think the next multi-billion-dollar IPOs, which will be in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years, will be coming out of this space. It's our job to find those companies now and align ourselves. I think that will shift from the typical Silicon Valley, and I think really it's very diversified. When you look at some of the technology computer developers, when you look at places like Israel, which has an amazing community, when you look at the likes of Eastern Europe into Poland, amazing community of developers, when you look at some of pockets of Southeast Asia, also amazing developers, and of course, London, the blockchain capital of the world, of course. When you start to look at what's going on in the fintech space as well, and when you start to see how the tokenization of typical type of equities, fixed income, real estate, and certainly somewhere where you guys really are successful. And when you start to see the whole fintech payments on-ramps and off-ramps, I believe London will be a real key place for that.
Let's look at that for a quick second. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but the fintech space in London specifically was highly curated. There was a government initiative. They championed Innovate Finance. The incumbents were really almost not forced, but highly encouraged to get in sandboxes, to onboard customers from fintech companies, because the UK really wanted to be the fintech champion, right? And I don't know, other than perhaps Switzerland and maybe Gibraltar to some degree, we've not had, a big market say, we want to own this space and we're going to be the blockchain capital. We're still kind of, there's pockets, I guess is what I'm saying. So you and I had a really interesting conversation about infrastructure, And does the actual infrastructure exist that we can really scale? So kind of going back to Andreas this morning, talking about the scalability issue. Do you find that that will impact where these opportunities arise?
Definitely. I think that a lot of the opportunities in the blockchain space are actually moving towards just financial business. And a lot of the things around blockchain that people talked about that are not financial are taking longer to materialize, let's put it this way. So finance and blockchain, that's it. If we're talking about money, Bitcoin, if we're talking about lending, and we're talking about where we are, digital securities, everything is about fintech. And there are mainly two areas in the world where you can find a lot of talent and a lot of banks that will work with you. That's in London, and that's in New York, and maybe a little bit in places like Singapore and Hong Kong. But London and New York are two major hubs for this thing. So I'm now, you asked me earlier about initiating. I'm actually initiating a new company now. And we're building a blockchain for security tokens, which is dedicated to institutional investors and to the institutional space, what I would call institutional grade blockchain platform for digital securities. Yeah. So the people that I'm talking to are either here in London or in New York.
Okay.
Pretty much
yeah,
that's
financial capitals.
Financial capitals. And I think that we are going to see a lot of growth here in London for this type of businesses. And in New York as well. These are the two areas where I think the most of this market will grow, because a lot of the talent is here. People that are used to be in the banking environment are opening up to this new world. They're getting used to it.
We're escaping.
Yeah, slowly.
You got out alive, did you?
Month by month, it's getting better. I'm hearing better, and pretty much all the banks are now running between 5 and 10 POCs or things like that. So that's the situation that I'm seeing right now, and I expect it to grow and accelerate.
George, what
our focus is decentralized applications and protocols. So they spark everywhere. The whole idea is that you get people involved in your project all over the world, and I think that's one of the reasons why the VC space in the token world is quite sociable, because, and it is geographic as well. It's like it's good to have a partner in London and a partner in Hong Kong and a partner in Silicon Valley, because you can spark these networks, and really that's what it's all about for us. So it's less about the financial capital world for us. It's more about where the community has taken hold for a particular project, and we would go to those places and be amongst those people if there's a particular hotspot for whatever that protocol or application is.
Okay.
So we're not tied to.
You're not jurisdictionally,
not jurisdictionally tied. No.
Tied. James, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I live on the road because we need to be, the best talent is all over the world that's working on this space. The vast majority of teams are decentralized in some form. If you want the world's best talent, you pretty much have to work in that way these days. And the network of capital is very distributed. So yeah, I'm constantly all over the place because it matters for what we do.
So there's no one area that you think is going to be the next Silicon Valley?
Isn't that a great thing?
Yeah, isn't that a great thing?
I think
I personally think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, we're almost out of time. I didn't leave time for questions again. I don't even know if I'm supposed to. I'm really sorry, guys. Tell us, if somebody has a crappy idea, but they're a super awesome person with a great team, how do they get in touch with you?
You can hit me up across any social media. If you put a SVK crypto into Yahoo, Google, or whichever search engine you use, you'll find our website, you'll find our YouTube, you'll find our Telegram, and you'll also find our meetups. We got a meetup going on next Tuesday night, actually focusing on women and blockchain, and also the gaming space, which we're very passionate about. So SVK Crypto, come into our Telegram, you'll find me.
Ami?
So I'm mostly on Twitter,
Okay.
at Ami Ben David. So check it out. I'm writing some stuff that most crypto people don't like. So
For controversial Twitter feeds,
yeah.
follow Ami Ben David. Got
That's
it.
me.
Okay.
And but you can reach me on my email, ami@spicevc.com.
Great, thank you.
So for us, we have a Twitter handle, which is @KR1PLC. We have a blog on Medium where we sort of chart about all the weird and wonderful places that we go and the people that we meet and the stuff that we're interested in. And on our website, there's a contact form. You can send us stuff through that.
Great.
Cool.
James?
I have an amazing team. Dermot and Georgina, do you want to wave? They're like much better versions of me that know much more than me. So I'd say talk to Dermot and Georgina. Otherwise, you can get me on jrp@thereserve.world.
Great.
And Teana, thank you very much for filling in.
Yes,
you were not
thank
supposed
you.
to actually chair this
I
today.
wasn't. How did I do?
So big
you
round of
did good.
applause for Teana.
Yeah,
Well
thank
done,
you very
Teana.
much.
Thank you,
Well
Teana.
done for stepping in. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Thanks
Thanks
for
a lot.
joining
Thanks.
me.